Okay, so it's no secret that The Sims has a lot of expansions. Ever since the first Sims game was released in early 2000, EA has been pumping out DLC pack after DLC pack, everything from pets and seasons to time travel and supernatural creatures. These expansions have always been contentious, whether the Sims community are arguing over which one is best, criticizing their content, or just condemning packs in general for being overpriced money grabs. They always seem to be in the spotlight. And with The Sims being the hell franchise that it is, that's often for good reason. From buggy and unplayable messes to weird brand tie-ins, there's a lot of terrible packs. But on the other side of the coin, or rather the simoleon, there are a ton of amazing expansion packs that build on everything great about The Sims and introduce tons of great new features. The fact that The Sims can actually be a pretty great game is often lost in discussions about the poor quality of the franchise, so today I'm here to offer a more balanced perspective. We're gonna take some of the best, some of the worst, and some of the most expansions and stuff packs from throughout the years and go over what makes them so great or so terrible. But if I were ranking cool and epic sponsors, Mistplay would be at the top of my list. Mistplay is a loyalty app for us gamers out there. Us XP grinders, those who would rather ride the battle bus than the bus to work. Those of us who cut our finger and say, I think I just lost some HP. I'm sorry. Whether you're looking for a little help covering your Spotify subscription, your daily coffee, or even a cheeky Fortnite battle pass, with Mistplay you can earn rewards simply by discovering and playing mobile games. Find tons of new favorites. Casual, adventure, card, puzzle, word, strategy games, and more await you on Mistplay, and the more you play, the more you'll earn. You can redeem your points for gift cards from your favorite brands like Amazon, Walmart, Xbox, PlayStation, and more. Over 100 million in gift cards has already been redeemed on Mistplay just from chilling out and playing some cool new games. If you're a mobile gamer or have been wanting to get into it, Mistplay is the perfect way to get your brain working, chill out after a long day, or just relax and vibe, all while earning points that you can put towards amazing rewards. How swag is that? Visit mistplay.com/izzies or click the link in the description to download Mistplay for free. You'll get 200 bonus points for signing up today, plus use my code izzies100 inside the app for an additional 100 free points, which will help towards redeeming your first gift card. See the description for all of the details. It's easy to fondly look back at The Sims 3 with rose-tinted glasses and think about how fantastic and amazing and flawless it was, but more and more people tend to forget that the third installment of the game had its fair share of duds. And there is no better example of this than the candy-coated, glitter-dusted nightmare that was Katy Perry's Sweet Treats. Released in 2012, it was the 6th stuff pack for The Sims 3, but the lack of any clear stuff pack label on the packaging led many to believe that this was an entire expansion or even a spin-off game. Despite hilariously claiming to be quote-unquote packed with more stuff than you have ever seen, in reality it was a pretty lackluster stuff pack, with a meager 5 tops, 4 bottoms, 14 outfits, 5 hairstyles, and a whopping 1 single outfit for male Sims. If this isn't proof that men are oppressed in society, I don't know what else is. This game was released during Katy Perry's teenage dream era, when she was going for the whole California Girls Rainbow Candyland acid trip aesthetic, and boy does it show in these outfits. Most of them are just taken straight from various music videos, photo shoots, and performances, like this big bedazzled candy dress, the iconic cupcake bra, and this mysterious lollipop shirt that one of her background dancers was wearing. I was gonna spend a whole section here ranting about this horrible gumball dress which looks like a 5-year-old drew it, but then I looked up the real dress and it just looks like that. I can't even hate this. This is a legitimately faithful recreation. The furniture included in the pack isn't much better. Most of the items are pre-existing models, slightly altered to have candy decals on them. This bar is just a candy striped recolor of the regular base game bar, as is this little peppermint table. There are dresses and shelves and even a slip and slide, which are slightly modified versions of items that already exist in the base game, and for 30 USD, which is 10 more than a standard stuff pack, it just wasn't worth it. This stuff pack was incredibly hyper niche, appealing only to diehard Katy Perry fans, or simmers who wanted to make bright candy themed worlds. And in that case you could find tons of fan-made custom content content that was both higher quality than the items featured in the Sweet Treats pack and also free. In my opinion, the main reason behind the wave of hate that this game got was the sheer cash grabby celebrity tie-in-ness of it all. The Sims franchise had been doing tie-in collaborations since The Sims 2 with stuff packs featuring H&M, IKEA, and Diesel, but never before had a pack been so blatant, from the giant Katy Perry PNG slapped on the front of the box to the higher price point to the quickly cobbled together assortment of low quality items. It was pretty clear that this project had been rushed out to meet some ill-advised contract between Katy Perry's agency and EA. It's also worth noting that there's a collector's edition of the Showtime expansion pack, again featuring Katy Perry themed items, but these were more of a bonus edition rather than the focal point of the entire pack. That didn't stop them from, again, putting her front and center on the packaging though. Katy Perry Sweet Treats was a meme in the Sims fandom for a long time just because of how shameless and terrible it was, even for EA, and it's a reminder that even during the Sims 2 and 3 eras, the series was far from perfect. The Sims 2 apartment life harkens back to a time when the franchise was more edgy and gritty. None of the chic luxury penthouse business from The Sims 3 Late Night, and none of these clean, modern living solutions introduced in The Sims 4 City Living. Unlike those expansions, the horrors and thrills of apartment living was depicted in all of its glory in The Sims 2 apartment life. Having to bang on the wall because your noisy neighbors are up at 3 AM again, only being able to afford terrible, cramped apartments in the worst part of town, and having to maintain a good relationship with your roommates lest they move out. While in real life it could be a pain, apartment living in The Sims 2 was incredibly entertaining and a great example of how The Sims 2 was a lot more willing to put Sims in uncomfortable situations to hilarious effects. Also, this expansion literally added class as a feature to the game. That's not a joke. Every lot would now have a class ranking from high to low, calculated by how expensive the building and furniture were, how messy it was, and the values of the surrounding lots. New social classes for Sims were also added, with socialite and techie Sims living in high class lots and gearheads, quote unquote, living in the low class lots. From what I looked up, a gearhead is like someone who's really interested in like mechanical things and technology, but the Sims in this expansion dress kind of like steampunk and goth, and the name just makes it sound like it's related to drugs, so what a gearhead actually is in The Sims 2 kind of remains a mystery to me. Either way, it's hilarious to me that EA added wealth inequality and class division to the game as fun new features. Next up, the wage gap. All around, this is one of my favorite Sims expansions of any of the games. Not only does it add a wealth, pun intended, of new features, a hip new town, and the ability to live in all kinds of shared living situations, but it's also just super nostalgic for me. I have vivid memories of going to the store and getting to pick out any expansion I wanted, and the possibilities felt truly endless. The bright blue packaging and its promises of apartment living called to me, and I still remember the excitement of waiting for it to install, truly on the edge of my seat with excitement. I also had my first gay Sims experience TM in this game, which I'm sure a lot of people who have played The Sims can relate to. She was a good witch and she fell in love with an evil witch because love knows no bounds. Yeah, also witches were a thing in this game and they were great. Speaking of Sims expansions that are memorable to me, I'll always remember The Sims 4 Get to Work, and not in a good way. For the longest time, the Sims community had been asking for rabbit holes to be fully playable. For context, in The Sims, rabbit holes are basically locations like work and school that your sim disappears into, and you can't see what's going on inside these buildings or play your sim while they're inside. As a kid, I thought that rabbit holes was stupid and restricting, but now that I'm older, I understand that they're a necessity to a smooth gameplay loop, and the reason I understand that is because of The Sims 4 Get to Work. The expansion promised 3 new fully playable careers and no rabbit holes. For the first time ever, you could actively control your sim while they were at work, and 3 careers: doctor, detective, and scientist. It also allowed Sims to open up their own retail businesses, a feature adapted from The Sims 2 Open for Business. Though I had been disappointed in the launch for The Sims 4, this kind of renewed my hope for the series. Playable careers and explorable rabbit holes were features that the community had been asking for a long time, so for a minute there I really thought that The Sims 4 was gonna kinda wrangle itself back into shape and become the game that Simmers always dreamed of. What we got instead was far from a dream. The jobs are often repetitive repetitive, especially once you've leveled up to the highest rank and have no more progress to make, at which point it genuinely just becomes a 9 to 5 slog. And I'm pretty sure that's what most Sims players are playing the game to get away from. Sims are only at work for a set period of hours each day, and that allotted time generally isn't enough to get all of their tasks done, especially tasks that require a lot of traveling or walking around. And with this being The Sims 4, there are issues aplenty. The detective career is widely considered the hardest and most unpleasant career due to the fact that the clues you gather often don't even match the perpetrator of the crime, making it kind of a shot in the dark as to who to pin as your suspect. Sick Sims often bug out and show the wrong symptoms at the hospital or no symptoms at all, and additionally, despite the fact that the hospital is now a playable area, you can't actually go there if your sim is sick or pregnant. The only non-problematic career is the scientist, generally considered to be the most fun, but even its charms wear off after a while. The reason that work and school were relegated to rabbit holes in the previous games is because it's basically a full-time job keeping your sim clean, fed, and not on fire, so it's exhausting and grindy having to actually go to your sim's chosen profession every day, queuing up task after task, making sure all of the work is done, hitting deadlines and career targets, and then going home and having to cook and clean and oh god, I'm just describing real life now. The Sims 4 Get to Work is proof that there are indeed limits on how life like a life simulator should be, and dragging your sorry ass to your 9 to 5 every day is just a little bit too realistic. The Sims 3 Island Paradise is actually one of my favourite expansions of all time, which I know is a weird way to preface an entry that I said was not great, and if it wasn't for my personal affinity for this expansion, I probably would have put it in hell tier, because Island Paradise is broken. Infamously so. Released in 2013 as the 10th Sims 3 expansion pack, Island Paradise was a heavily themed pack focusing on island living with features such as scuba diving, sailing, houseboats, and even resort creation and management. The expansion featured a lush tropical world called Isla Paradiso, roughly translated to Island Paradise, which was a large island surrounded by many smaller secret islands that Sims could uncover by completing different achievements. Despite the huge amount of new content and the vibrant lush world introduced in this pack, it's well known for being one of the most risky expansions to download because of the terrible routing issues that plague Isla Paradiso. Routing is a system within the code of the game that allows Sims to move throughout different parts of the map without getting stuck or going into inaccessible areas. For example, steep mountains, cliffs, and deep water are usually non-routable, whereas things like roads and sidewalks are designed for Sims to walk on. If a map isn't routed correctly, it leads to Sims getting stuck, which leads to lag as their motives go down and they endlessly queue actions for going to the bathroom or eating, which they can't do since they're stuck, eventually leading to their untimely death. The inclusion of houseboats in Island Paradise caused a routing nightmare. Houseboats have to be docked to board them, and most of the ports in the game are very poorly constructed, making it a game of chance whether you'll actually be able to board properly. NPCs also sometimes abandon their houseboats out in the middle of the ocean, and without mods that automatically clean them up, they'll accumulate and cause a ton of lag. There are a bunch of specific households that have issues as well. The Scott household's boat isn't docked at the start of the game, causing lag, and Miss Scott is pregnant but not on maternity leave, causing issues when she tries to change into her work outfit but can't due to pregnancy. This is a recurring issue throughout a bunch of other families with pregnant women in them, and additionally there's a glitch where many mothers in pre-made families don't actually have a familial connection to their children. These glitches are to the point that many guides have a list of families to delete from Isla Paradiso, as well as a list of mods to install which will help fix routing issues and catch errors before they start causing lag. Island Paradise has always worked mostly fine for me, and I absolutely love like marine life and ocean exploration and scuba diving, so getting to go to this lush island and swim with sharks and explore caves and find mysterious map pieces was kind of like my dream expansion. So it's always going to be incredibly near and dear to my heart, but you know, that doesn't make it good. If it actually worked properly, it would be an easy 10 out of 10, but unfortunately it's just one in a long line of Sims games that were completely broken on launch. And for a AAA game published by an incredibly popular and massively profitable company like EA, that's just not really acceptable. My hatred of stuff packs began when I was but a child after buying a few of the Sims 2 stuff packs, namely teen style stuff, H&M stuff, and glamour life stuff. I thought I was the coolest kid on the block with all my extra content. And then I found out about custom content and I felt like the biggest idiot on the planet. Little did I know that on the internet there were thousands and thousands of items of hair, clothing, accessories, furniture, and game modifications that I could have downloaded for free. Content that was generally quite a lot higher quality than the stuff included in those packs, which I usually paid about $20 to $30 for, by the way. And then there are the shameless brand tie-in packs. I had the Sims 2 H&M stuff, despite the fact that we didn't have H&M in New Zealand back then and I had no idea what it was, and there was also IKEA home stuff. The Sims 3 had, of course, Katy Perry sweet treats as well as Diesel stuff, and The Sims 4 had Machino stuff. Machino? I never know how to pronounce that. And speaking of The Sims 4, well, the situation with packs in The Sims 4 is a little bit convoluted, to say the least. Whereas in previous installments there were two types of packs, stuff packs and expansion packs, in The Sims 4 there are 4 different types of packs. Expansions, game packs, which are like expansion packs but smaller, stuff packs, and game kits, which are like stuff packs but only include a few items. There are over 70 packs of DLC for The Sims 4, which is an appalling amount for any franchise and likely the reason why the base game recently went free to play. There are so many packs you need to buy just to get a basic fleshed out game experience that it's basically pay to play. And then of course there's the needless segmenting of content into ridiculous packs like bowling night stuff, home chef hustle stuff, bust the dust kit, which was based entirely around vacuuming, bathroom clutter kit, and of course Star Wars Journey to Batuu, which we'll get into later. The Sims as a franchise has always been accused of putting basic features behind paywalls, but only in The Sims 4 have so many basic features been cut from the base game to be included in endless additional DLC packs, to the point where the base game has been made free to play for the first time in Sims history. It definitely doesn't give me hope for The Sims 5, that's for sure. The thrills and spills of college living, pranking nerds, keg stands, and unforgettable cheerleader ex-jock romances. You know, at least that's what I've picked up from a bunch of American college movies. I'm assuming those are realistic portrayals. The Sims 2 University, released in 2005, was the first expansion released for The Sims 2, and boy did they start the series with a bang. University is such a fun, silly expansion, and it encapsulates both the depth and the total randomness of The Sims 2 perfectly. Alongside allowing your teenage Sims to apply for and attend a college of their choice, they can also live in dorm rooms, Greek houses, or private residences if their parents are rich, where they'll meet all kinds of kooky classmates to befriend. On the college campuses there are student unions, cafes, gyms, and more, providing all of the amenities that a clueless freshman could ask for. The cool thing about university campuses is that they're sub-neighborhoods, meaning that you get to travel to a whole new location where time doesn't pass. Which sounds kind of nightmarish in theory, but it basically just means your sim gets to go on a fun, wacky adventure and then come back home without losing any days while they were away. And in The Sims, days are precious because life is short, at least on default settings. There are also a slew of random and wacky new features thrown into the mix, like the Resurrectonometron, an item which allows you to bring Sims back from the dead for a price. If you don't cough up enough simoleons, the Grim Reaper will bring back your sim as a zombie, which was the first life state introduced into the Sims 2 series, and my personal favorite, by the way. Zombies have bluish grey skin, walk with a limp, and constantly think about brains. Their personalities and skill points are wiped too. Cow plants, carnivorous man-eating plants, were also added in this expansion alongside streaking, secret societies, phones, and MP3 players, which really marks this game as a product of its time. It's such a fun, silly expansion that encapsulated everything great and goofy about the game itself. And it was just the first in a long line of fantastic expansions for The Sims 2. Ah yes, EA's failed money-grabbing Star Wars tie-in pack. This and that one other pack that we shall not mention until the end of the video are probably the most infamous Sims 4 blunders, both becoming huge controversies, TM, and receiving scathing criticism from the community. Journey to Batuu was released in September of 2020 as the 9th game pack for The Sims 4, and oh boy did it flop. Despite the community voting for a completely different expansion pack in the public vote, Star Wars Journey to Batuu, which lost to all of the other entries by a country mile, was voted the winner. Journey to Batuu allowed Simmers to journey to Batuu, an alien planet from the Star Wars franchise. Their Sims could battle with lightsabers, meet alien species, and even acquire their own droids. They could also complete quests throughout the world of Batuu, most of which were extremely boring fetch quests which required finding a specific NPC to talk to or walking long distances to perform social interactions. Despite the very beautifully modeled and designed world of Batuu, basically all of the buildings were rabbit holes and non-interactable set dressing, and the only reason that the world looks so good is because it's an exact replica of Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge theme park. As many Simmers pointed out, it was incredibly disappointing and insulting that the community's votes were ignored in place of a cheap and blatant theme park advertisement for Disney, which was basically a giant empty world with Star Wars set dressing, a few Star Wars themed NPCs, and a bunch of pointless and boring quests that amounted to your Sim spending hours traveling back and forth throughout the world to talk to different NPCs. It was pretty low even for EA, and the entire simming community lost a lot of trust and faith in the company after this disaster of an expansion. There's nothing better than having a little guy living in your house, and EA understood that. From cats to dogs to birds and guinea pigs, and of course horses, which were exclusive to The Sims 3, the Petz installment allowed Sims to fill their homes with furry little bundles of joy, or aggressive, messy, and untrained hellspawn sent from the depths of Hades to torment your Sim. Take your pick. The Sims Unleashed was the first Sims game to introduce the concept of pets, allowing you to adopt all kinds of cute critters to train, dress up, and love. The Sims 2 Petz expanded on this concept, introducing many different breeds of felines and canines, as well as in-depth customization, so you could replicate your real-life pets or just make strange and bizarre Frankenstein creations. One of my favorite parts of The Sims 2 Petz as a kid were wolves. Occasionally you could encounter a specific wolf called the leader of the pack who had glowing yellow eyes and could turn your Sim into a werewolf, and The Sims 2 werewolves were genuinely freaky looking and far more iconic than any of the other werewolf designs they would come up with for future installments, at least in my opinion. Maybe that's a controversial one, I don't know, sound off in the comments. The Sims 3 Petz once again expanded this concept. This time you could control and play as your pets, running, jumping, frolicking, and destroying your way through town. Dogs and cats could learn the hunting skill, and hilariously on the wiki next to the section about pet skills is a note that reads, "If The Sims 3 Ambitions is installed, stalking prey outside will increase the chance of a cat or dog being hit by a meteor." Ah, The Sims. Never change. Horses were a brand new addition to The Sims 3. Horses could learn the racing and jumping skills, and Sims could learn the horse riding skill. You could go to the horse riding park or set up your own riding courses at home with all kinds of jumps and features before taking your horse to competitions, because by gum, he's gonna be the next Far Lap, I tell you what. Rest in peace, Timaru icon. Of course, cats, dogs, and horses could also breed, meaning that yes, you can cuddle with kittens, puppies, and foals to your heart's content. Unfortunately, The Sims 4 kind of broke this winning Petz expansion streak when they infamously released My First Pet Stuff, which was an expansion for an expansion. It was a whole debacle, and it's generally considered a huge step back from the previous 3 entries. They also released their pet pack without horses, and then later released a separate pack for horses, again an example of features that were previously included in one expansion being divided up into a bunch of smaller and objectively worse packs. Still, the Petz expansion is an absolute classic staple in the series, and it goes to show that sometimes the simple things are the best. Cute animals plus The Sims equals a happy player base. The maths doesn't lie. Or actually maybe it does, I don't know, I'm not good at maths. Generations, released in May of 2011, was the 4th expansion pack for The Sims 3 and promised players, quote, "new celebrations, dramatic life events, and all new ways for your Sims to express their creativity." This pack is interesting because unlike the others, which have pretty clear-cut premises like pets, university, or seasons, Generations' theme is a lot more vague. Rather than offering a tropical paradise to explore or pets to play with, it fleshes out each life stage, adding new interactions, features, and events for toddlers, children, teens, and adults. Though on the surface this pack doesn't bring much to the table in the way of bombastic new features or amazing new locations, it brings so many quality of life additions that it's widely considered a must-have pack for any simmer playing The Sims 3. Kids can dress up using a costume chest, go on field trips, attend after-school activities, play in a treehouse, which is its own rabbit hole hilariously, and sleep in bunk beds. Teens have a whole host of chaotic new interactions such as household pranks, attending house parties and prom nights, learning how to drive, sneaking out, art, high school clubs, and boarding school. For adults, the focus is on love and family. Sims can now have a reputation based on how many flings or even affairs they've had, which can affect how other Sims view them. They can also have a midlife crisis, a 6-day period in which they'll continually wish to do outlandish things, such as buying a new car, moving house, divorcing their spouse, or traveling abroad. There are also a bunch of new items and interactions for weddings, including being able to ask step-parents for your spouse's hand in marriage. The only downside is that elders aren't given any other new interactions aside from being able to use a cane, which is a real shame because elders are already kind of like an life stage, and this pack would have been perfect to give them a ton of new interactions. Being able to move to a retirement home, shuffleboard and bingo skills, mobility aids, and even being able to add Sims or, for the extra drama, remove them from your will. All this and more could have been possible, and it would have been really fun, but alas, it was not to be. Still, all of the additions already in the game are fantastic. It makes every life stage feel thought out and fun to play through, with unique experiences and interactions that really make it feel like your Sim is going through the motions and having those life experiences throughout each generation. Weddings in The Sims, much like real life, are always kind of a mess. The guests never sit where they're meant to, or sit at all for that matter. Sims are always wandering around the aisles or in front of the couple getting married, and even the Sims-to-be sometimes run off mid-ceremony to go look at an interesting object or randomly change clothes. Sims weddings are chaotic as hell and never look how you want them to. It's a staple in the series and kind of a running joke within the community, which is why Simmers were so excited when My Wedding Stories, a game pack which would revamp weddings with all new features and controls, was announced in February of 2022. However, things would soon start going downhill. And by soon I mean literally the next day, when the Sims team made a blog post titled Our Commitment to You. The blog post addressed the two Sims featured on the box art and in trailers for the pack, a lesbian couple called Dominique and Camille. Quote, "As we moved through our development and brand storytelling process, we became aware that the way we wanted to tell Cam and Dom's story would not be something we could freely share around the world. We are steadfast in upholding that commitment by shining a light on and celebrating stories like Dom and Cam, so we have made the decision to forego the release of My Wedding Stories, where our storytelling would be subject to changes because of federal laws. Regrettably, this means that members of the Sims community in Russia will not be able to purchase this game pack." While many in the community stood by EA's decision, others were incensed by it, and the hashtag Weddings for Russia was spammed at the developers on Twitter as well as in the chat of the developer live streams. And all of this outrage actually worked. The day before the game was set to release, EA posted another announcement stating that the pack in fact would be releasing in Russia after all, but would be delayed by another week. It was never explained how or why this decision was reversed, but one can only assume the immense pressure from the community as well as several large and prominent Sims fan sites became too much. But that was far from the end of the drama that was Wedding Stories, because then the pack actually released to a terrible reception. A pun intended. From the cake continually spoiling mid-ceremony, to guests wearing casual outfits, to issues choosing ring bearers, officiants, and flower pals, to married Sims getting caught in an endless loop during their vows, to once again guests not sitting down for the ceremony, which, remember, was one of the big issues this pack was created to address. The worst part is that the pack had been this way for quite some time. Many popular Sims creators, including Plumbella, Lil Simsy, and Carl's Sims Guide, had been very vocal about the bugginess of the pack when they received their early access copies, and it didn't look like very much had changed for the full release. Additionally, modders discovered some unused code for the game which added new moodlets and the ability for pets to be ring bearers, suggesting that content was cut from the pack to rush it out for a Valentine's Day release, as February 17th was the original intended launch date. Though a large bug patch was later released to fix the many issues in the heavily broken game, it was too little too late. By this time, many in the Sims community had grown frustrated with the constant cycle of unfinished, broken, or rushed out packs, and this was the final straw. EA never apologized or even addressed how blatantly broken this full price pack was, so many Simmers still harbor a lot of resentment towards a franchise and a company that they once used to love. I know we ended on kind of a downer there, but I think it's important to acknowledge the multifacetedness that is the Sims series. Are there some absolute flops? Yes. Have most of those flops occurred post Sims 4? Yes, but the series has some fantastic entries, some expansion packs that really do expand and open up the world of The Sims, and I hope that this video shone a light on both the good and the bad of the series. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. As always, had a blast talking about The Sims. I know, sorry, I've been talking about The Sims a lot lately, it's very like self-indulgent, because I just really like talking about The Sims, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, hopefully it's not too much. I definitely have other Sims videos planned for the future, but I'll try to space them out so it's not just like Sims mania. Either way, thank you so much for watching and I really appreciate it. If you have any suggestions, be they sim based or other suggestions for videos you want to see, definitely let me know. And yeah, thank you for watching and I really hope to see you in the next one. Bye! A huge thank you to my Garfood overlords over on Patreon: Sheriff Whiskey, Xavier Arajo, Jiffy the Punk, Grip Gunderson, Bunzo, Sophie H, Simon, Katrina Likes 5e Stuff, Oliver Brains, Thigh Heavenly, Dozo Blint, Hazy, Zoe Mars, Matt LRJ, Michelle Olsen, A Riddle Wrapped in Enigma hidden by a question mark, Astrian Vortex, Joe Bradshaw, Jar the Bar, Vivian Valencia, Jet Secret, Helm Hamburger Hand, Chicory, Dana Homegardener, Jesse Chisholm, Lee XX, Blue Mayfeld, and Doug. If you want to join these guys over on Patreon, the link will be in the description. And yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting me. Thank you for watching the video, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Bye!